Welcome to Sewing Out Loud, the official podcast of ZD Sewing Studio. Here are your hosts, ZD and Mallory.
Sewing Out Loud. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Mallory Donahue.
I'm ZD Donahue.
And we are diving into some specific projects in our Home Deck series. So if this is your first time ever listening to the podcast, we did a little intro to Home Deck. We did something about fabrics and shopping and stuff like that. Then we did an episode on glue and hardware and tools. And now we think it's best for us to just jump in and talk about the specific projects that ZD's done so that new things can come up and we can talk about them.
Yeah.
You know,
I was trying to think about like Home Deck and why or if or when I ever started it or what, and I was thinking about my cousin Phyllis, right?
Uh-huh.
And, her husband and her were in college and they had this cheap little attic, awful apartment, like nothing kind of worked right. And, the door didn't shut right. You went up these rickety steps and you got to the apartment and she just had taken like some fabric and she made they had kind of a couch. I don't know if that's really what it was. And they were both very good at and creative at doing things and all that. And, she had bought this bright fabric, bright flowery fabric. Now, everybody, this is in the 60s. Okay?
Right.
So, and it was kind of a coarse weave. And she just made these throw pillows for the floor, so people could sit on the floor because they didn't have any furniture. And he had made a coffee table out of this big piece of butcher block, and it had pipe legs, and then she covered some throw pillows for the couch. So she repeated the fabric, and then she had a couple solids or whatever. And you walked up there, and after going up those rickety steps, you had no idea what you were gonna or if you were gonna live as you went up them. And mind you, I'm 10 or 12 years old at this time, and here was this bright spot that somebody thought about. And I think that's mostly what it was. You saw that somebody thought about what needed to go on in this room.
Decorating in general is kind of its own alchemy.
Yeah.
I don't...
And I mean, it was probably done with no money, hardly any money.
Right.
But I just thought, I remember at that age going, oh, I like it in here. And, I didn't know if I was going up those stairs, but I just thought she made it cheerful. She made it welcoming. She made it unique. And it also made it look like, especially the welcoming part, they were, even though they didn't have any furniture, they were welcoming people coming over.
Right.
So.
Okay, so Home Deck lets you customize your space, gives you a little power over that. No, that's really a good point because I think main lesson here is to make the entrance to your house set people up with really low expectations. And then they go in and they can be impressed.
This really
okay?
crap curb appeal,
Yes.
right? And then, you open this door and it's ta-da!
One way to make your Home Deck stand out. All right. Okay. So let's move on. We're going to talk about careful, somebody's going to complain to me about you knocking your mic around.
I'm sorry.
So one of the things...
I think it's because it took a visit and left home and came back.
That's right. That's right. I'm helping someone else start a podcast right now. And... they used our mics. So anyway, two of the projects we're talking about today, they're very simple, on the simple end of the Home Deck spectrum and the first one I want to talk about are your dining room chairs.
Right.
I love these. They just are a really cool thing. I think that a lot of people can do. They're so much fun.
This would be Primer Home Deck,
a really good place
upholstery.
To start. Yes, Primer upholstery.
Primer upholstery
yes.
is what this would be. You probably won't screw it up too bad.
Don't take apart your couch first, or you can, whatever. Who am I to tell someone what to do?
Which is probably what I did do.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was this Danish modern chair my mother had was the first thing I did, which was really just box cushions. But
so these dining room chairs, though, they are wooden chairs.
The wooden chairs
with a
padded seat.
A padded seat.
Okay, which a lot of chairs, that go to a dining room table, that's what you've got.
It's a pretty common thing.
This is a common style of chair from before time, right?
Yeah, like pretty common.
Yeah.
And so tell us, let's start from the beginning. When you got these chairs,
Mm-hmm.
how was that padded seat attached to the chair?
Well, I've never run across any that haven't been attached this way.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your chair is actually, the seat is actually just a frame.
Uh-huh.
Right. And there's usually it's usually a piece of wood that the cushion, there's foam on this piece of wood, and that basically makes up the cushion, right?
Uh-huh.
And if you turn the chair over, there's usually 4 screws, 1 in each corner, and you probably see it because it's through a pre-drilled hole.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes on really, really old stuff, it won't really be a pre-drill hole. It might just be that someone put a screw in there, but generally it's a pre-drilled hole, and you unscrew.
And the
seat,
the padded seat comes off.
The padded seat comes off. So it's a piece of plywood generally, that has foam on it, that has had fabric stretched over it.
Okay, cool.
Right.
So if you're like, well, I've been meaning to redo my dining room chairs, turn them upside down.
Right.
And look for those screw
Look for
holes.
those. Yes.
Now, the only thing that I was thinking that could happen to a chair is that it would have that like tack. Have you ever seen dining chairs that have the tacks around
Not
it?
the kind that we're talking about.
Okay,
no.
that's kind of a different kind of chair. Okay, let's not talk about it then.
Right,
All
not what we're talking about.
Fabulous,
no.
fabulous.
That would be an upholstered seat versus the seat cushion.
Got
okay?
it. No, that's great. So I just
Right.
I don't want somebody to be
so
like.
this is where then now you have, basically this unit, and usually this cushion is somehow glued or adhered to that piece of plywood.
Yeah, the foam is glued onto the plywood, right?
And usually it is plywood, and it's usually a relatively thick piece of plywood because those screws, you're screwing into it, and that gives it the grip or whatever.
It's kind of heavy. It's kind of it's a substantial
This isn't something like. Don't think you can take do they call it masonite still?
I know what masonite is.
All right. Don't think you can take masonite, or something flimsy and replace the seat. So you may get a set of chairs that don't have that.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Now I've got to add a seat cushion, or, I've bought chairs where one came with the cushion and one didn't. In fact, they're downstairs in my living room.
Uh-huh.
Or no, actually, they're in the breakfast room now. Those 2 chairs are in the breakfast room. So those chairs were sort of mismatched, but they looked they came from 2 different places, but they were the same chair.
Right.
Okay. So they're antiques. They were antiques when I bought them 35 years ago. So I don't know what you call them now.
Yeah.
Okay. Beyond time. So anyway, one of those did not have a seat cushion.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that can happen is sometimes you'll buy some and they might have the seat cushions, but they're not the same. Like one's thicker or one's... So you need to remedy that.
Yeah.
By buying foam, right? Or adding foam. Or some people add batting.
Yeah.
Okay. And some people like the foam with a batting covering the top.
Yeah.
And it does give kind of a better feel, I think, for some reason.
Okay. If you got a set of chairs and only one of them had the seat cushion, you could take that and make a bit of a template for it.
Right.
To get
you
cut
would
out
just
of plywood
match it.
and,
Exactly.
okay.
That's what
All
I
right.
would do. That's what
Okay.
I would do. Now, sometimes with it like a dining room suit, as we would call them.
Do you say suit or sweet?
Suit.
I say sweet,
Both.
but is it?
I've heard it both ways.
Okay.
It's spelled like sweet.
Yeah.
With the E on the end, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But okay. I've heard it both ways.
Okay.
A lot of times the captain's chair, or there is what they would call a captain's chair, and it may have arms on it.
Yeah.
And the others, say there's 6 chairs and 5 will be without arms, and the head of the table captain's chair, has the arms on it. Sometimes that seat could be a different size.
Oh, okay.
So
sure.
just beware.
Okay, good.
So
good
when
to
you're
know.
doing this,
Mhm.
I would take my one template seat off, right?
Right.
And make sure I put it on all the other chairs and that it fit.
That it fits. Okay.
That it was the right size.
Good deal.
So, get a handy jigsaw and have somebody, if you are not competent at that, have somebody else do it. Or
I don't even know. There might be some hardware stores too.
Some, especially local hardware stores,
that might cut.
Will
that
do that for
you.
You can take it in, and if you buy the wood from them, they would cut that for you. Or sometimes you'll take it in, and the guy goes, "Well, I can take this home and do it in my garage, and I'll do it for $10 a seat or whatever."
Right.
So,
and if you don't have a jigsaw, yeah,
right.
Pay somebody.
Right, if you don't have a jigsaw. But, you'll have to wind up. Somehow you've got to come up with the new template.
Yeah.
And you've got to come up with foam.
Okay.
You can find foam in your hardware store. You can find foam in your fabric store. You can find foam online.
And we talked a little bit about that during our previous episode. Right. Foam can degrade over time.
It does. And more than likely, if these are really old, you may be replacing it.
So if you are going to recover them all, let's pretend like you did get a full set that they all have cushions. You're going to remove the cushions, remove the seats from the chairs with your screws.
Right.
And then this is going to be kind of a roundabout way for how you can check on your foam, but how do you take the existing cover off of there, Mom, if there's fabric on there?
Well, usually it's stapled.
Okay.
It could be tacked.
Okay.
Either one. Okay, so you've got little tack heads underneath. They're going to be on the bottom, right? And now sometimes this will be covered also with muslin or something, so that you don't, if you laid under the chair and looked up, right, you would see a piece of muslin that was glued or tacked on there, so it would look finished. Okay, and that's a black or a beigey neutral, some sort of color like that. But so what you need to do is you're going to have to remove tacks or remove staples.
You got any recommendations for that?
I usually start with a flathead screwdriver and see what's going to happen.
See what happens.
Right?
And your pliers.
And you always got your pliers right next to you. Yeah. Always, always, always.
And this is another place where you need to be careful. You don't point any screwdriver toward your abdomen or something like that.
Or your hand, right. Wherever you're poking towards, you shouldn't have any. And a lot of times I wear gloves.
Wearing gloves during
Work
this stage
gloves
would
are
be
good
great.
on anything like this.
This is another place too. We talk about kids sometimes on this. This is a place where you need to be real careful if a kid is asked to help you or something like that. This isn't like making a quilt.
Right. You're getting into power tools.
Yeah, you need to be kind of careful when you're taking these staples out. So when you do take or tacks or whatever's on there, then you get to kind of feel your foam.
Well, the thing I would do before that is as I took them off, I would pay attention to how they were on, and especially at the corners.
Yeah,
there's a couple of different ways to fold corners. Okay, and depending on what your chair looks like or the frame that it's going to be popped on top of or something, you may want to take note how they did their corner.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And maybe the back corners and the front corners are done a little differently.
No,
so I would take note or take a picture or
oh,
whatever.
Gosh, always take a picture.
The thing, it's so easy to take pictures now, you guys. I used to have to try and draw stuff out.
Okay,
and things
you
like
don't realize, you don't know what you don't know sometimes when you are getting into something like
this.
Well,
the other thing that I think has happened to me is I'm taking it apart. Well, sure, I'll remember because I'm gonna do this tomorrow, and then tomorrow winds up being a month from now.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I'm like, oh, how did they have this on there? Now I can figure it out, but now I've got to think through it again.
When you document, you make yourself an external brain.
Exactly.
Right?
It's it's like having this little brain on the side you can draw from.
And for me, I feel like I used to have a really good memory for some things.
Oh, it's because you have children.
Yes.
And you also breastfed.
Okay. And
what happens when you breastfeed.
They suck your brain cells out.
Your brain cells get sucked right out.
Well, after you have kids, no matter who you are, you're just constantly in the back of your mind wondering if they're did I do what I needed to do for them to be alive?
And it isn't only kids. When life gets busier,
yes,
right,
yes.
or things get complicated, and I do think certainly as you age, sometimes I'm not sure that I've lost the capacity to remember some things as much as maybe I just don't give a damn anymore.
Well, I've just found I've really maybe been coming to the realization I've always been kind of like a. When I was a kid, I was like a precocious kid, and I could remember this or that, or I was, good at, doing things on the fly, and I'm like, oh, but if I document, then I can really ensure more accuracy.
I think that's the other thing too, is I can document. I don't have to remember.
Yeah.
Right?
And documenting is a skill, right?
Yes.
Okay, what a nice tangent there. Let's take a little break and come back and go through the covering process of the chairs. ZD, what's your favorite way to measure yourself?
With my Easy Check tape measure.
So tell me a little bit about this.
It's the only way to measure myself, I think.
Why is it so magical?
Well, because there's a slide on it.
Uh-huh.
You actually snap one end of the tape measure into the back of the slide, and then you fit it to the measurement, and then you can unsnap, and the slide remains on the place that you've measured.
So if you're trying to measure your arm.
Right.
Or your underbust.
Right.
Or your thigh.
Your head.
Or your head. Oh, yeah, the head,
right.
Definitely.
Well, and, measuring yourself is one thing, but even measuring somebody else, what it does is it marks the spot, basically, where the measurement is. And so if and this happens to you, that you're measuring somebody and they start talking to you and you're like, was that 21 or 23? Oh, my gosh.
Right.
And where with this, the slide has marked it.
I also have heard feedback from customers who say, I am sending this to my daughter or, so that she can measure my grandchildren and it will be accurate.
Right.
Right?
We've actually had trainers too.
Yep.
That bought these, for their customers, or they themselves use it for their customers, or it was a male trainer and a female client. He didn't have to put his hands on the person or whatever.
Also, this tape measure, when you use it with a snap, it's impossible to work from the wrong side.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you can't measure from the 60 end. You have to measure from the one end,
from the
zero end.
Yes.
Right. And I said 60, but it also has the millimeters on the other side too. So you've got
you have imperial and you have metric.
Right.
And so the Easy Check tape measure makes it very simple when you are trying to measure yourself and you just don't want to be fumbling around.
Well, and I think, the thing is, don't order one, because if somebody sees it, a husband or a daughter or just a friend, I mean, honestly, at Christmas time, I would put this like in almost everybody's stocking stuffer. And I think it's a great thing to like send away to college with people, things like that. Where
Fabulous.
You want something measured.
Well, if you're interested in your own Easy Check tape measure, you can see a video on how it works at sewhere.com/tape measure, and you can check it out for yourself. Sewing out loud. And we're back. All right. So what happens next?
Okay, so we've got our template. We've checked our foam, and we may have needed to replace our foam.
Yeah.
We may have had to scrape the old foam off where it was glued on, or the glue was so old it fell off.
Yeah.
Whatever, And so now if you have to put your foam on, you have cut your foam to the correct shape also.
Yeah.
And you will want to glue it to that seat. Okay. There's so many spray contact glues. This is the way to go. Okay.
Right.
Generally, there's a glue. All the major glue peoples have one. It's contact. You spray some on the seat and spray some on the back of the phone. You slap it down and you're ready to go. And a lot of that, many of those glues will give you a little bit of time to scoot it around.
Okay. Do you like? Okay, let's say your chair cushion template, like your seat, your wooden seat, it's like a trapezoid with rounded corners, right?
Maybe.
Let's pretend it is.
Uh-huh.
Would you glue a square piece of foam on that was a little bigger and then trim it away after it's on the seat? What do you do?
You could.
Okay.
I think it would depend on what I had. If I had a really, easy forward-looking trapezoid that was... I don't think I'd worry about it.
Okay, yeah, you just cut it and
maybe I would cut the square and do the corners after I got it on there.
Okay, great.
I would think that through. I've approached that both ways.
All right, good to know.
Then I probably would put a piece of batting on top of that.
Okay,
and same way I would use the contact spray, cement or whatever, and I'm literally talking maybe any kind of batting you prefer. Okay.
Anything you want.
It can be cotton, it can be polyester, whatever. As thick or as thin as you want this to look. And remember this, that that foam, you're actually going to be pulling the fabric down over this, so the foam will go down some.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're looking at the old foam and trying to match it, you may want to get it a little thicker than what it appears to be.
And then with the glues and the contact spray and everything, just check that it's meant for foam.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, you can dissolve your foam.
Yes. Yep.
With there's
burn
solvents
it away.
and glue, and you can actually dissolve your foam and sort of turn it into like plastic squigglies. Yeah.
Okay, so that sounds fun. Use a mask. Do it outside.
Outside. Now, I'm going to mention this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what I've always done. I've done it maybe on a quickie before, but I have covered over old fabric before.
Oh, okay.
Or existing. Let's not say old. Let's not say old. Let's say
Existing.
existing.
You left the fabric.
If it was a fabric that was smooth, if it was a fabric that was I felt was clean, if it was a fabric that was not going to add too much bulk at the corners that I was going to have to worry about or something, why worry about it? It's another layer of security.
Just kind of like,
right?
Yes, if you felt like the existing materials were okay.
But we also had a post just recently about, stink soup and getting things secondhand.
Oh.
And, sometimes you buy it and then you get it at home and moisture hits it some way.
Yes.
You either wet it or it's just...
That's what she said
Or it
happened.
could be moist that day and you're like, oh my God, what farted in my car?
Okay.
And it's the seat to the chair you bought.
Yeah, this was Tammy P, I think, and she was like, I brought this sweater home, and then I started stinking, so I got it on the back porch in a vat of water, and I said, the old back porch stew trick.
That's right.
I'm so glad that she got that I was, like, kidding.
Well, when I said it was stink soup, she said exactly.
Yes,
yeah.
No, I thought, if this was now Tammy has been like in the group forever, but I recognize her name every time, she posts and stuff, but I was like, if this had been a new person, I wouldn't have written that, I was like, I've had some things sitting on the back porch before.
It's kind of like the time I made this pillow for this person. I was all excited about it. And it had this embroidery thing on it. It was a little quip, a little cartoon, it was programmed embroidery. And it said, you should have been here yesterday. My house was clean, and it had like...
yeah.
And then I thought about it, and I thought, maybe she thinks her house is clean. And I still have the pillow. I was like, you gotta be careful who you give it.
Did you? Yeah, it was the house was clean yesterday. Sorry you missed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and after I made it, I was like, I don't know if I can give this to her.
That's why
she
have
might
that
think
pillow.
her house is just wonderful. I think her house is always a mess. and she thinks that this might be like a different in standards, right?
Yeah, Mom, I think it's maybe a good catch on your part.
I know. I can't believe it. No, I made the whole thing, and
I know, I've seen it.
Yeah, no, it's really. I used one side of the fabric and the other side of the fabric to frame it.
Now that was always a hit at the shop.
I know, but I would tell people my story. I actually made this for someone, and then I thought about it.
Let's cover some chairs. Okay, so that's funny. I didn't know that about that pillow.
So, I'll tell you who it's for, and you'll really laugh when I tell you who I made it for.
You can give it to me.
Oh, I know.
I know your house.
I know. I can give it to you. I can give it to all.
Mallory.
I could give it to all my children, I think. But no, I'll tell you who I made it for, and you're gonna laugh your butt off.
Okay.
I didn't know you didn't know that.
So
we're okay. We can cover over, and what you have to know is you don't want to staple into the existing staples on that. That would be another thing you'd have to think about.
Yeah.
Do you have enough room to bring this other fabric around and staple? And don't staple into staple or tack into tack. It's not going to work, right?
Okay, so what do we do? Let's move away from like the seats and let's go into our sewing studio.
Okay.
Let's leave the seats outside drying with their contact cement on them or whatever.
Getting the stink out.
Yep, okay.
But if they are existing, and especially if they come from someone else's home, I would give the seats a sniff.
Yeah.
I would.
Spray them with vodka.
I would spray them with vodka, and then while they were damp, kind of smell them, and then see. I would check them out.
But then also let your contact cement dry.
Right.
Probably stinky in a different way. So picking fabric.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to pick fabric to cover our seats.
Yes.
And you can pick whatever you want.
You can put just about anything. But, you're going to want something probably in the home deck venue.
Where you...
Because...
Yes.
You're going to want something that's durable. Something like a quilting cotton, right? Or rayon chelly will not serve you.
I mean, and
Okay.
you'll read about people covering or like silk covered chairs in like, Versailles and stuff.
But
if you live in Versailles, okay.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Later when we talk about drapes, we'll talk about my silk drapes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But to me, a dining room chair, I want it to be durable. I also want it to be somewhat stain resistant, or can I at least,
clean.
spots, clean this? I want it to go with my decor, of course.
Yeah.
A lot of people will go very neutral.
Mm-hmm.
With something like this, or very plain, nice beige on beige kind of color on color kind of thing. Some people will make a statement. Oh my gosh, what do you think I did? But anyway,
every piece is a statement piece.
so anyway, my chairs are talking.
Yep.
But anyway, so you want some durability to this.
And you keep in mind, this is something we brought up, I think in the first episode, your scale of your print. And when you buy your fabric for this, let's pretend it's got like one of those sort of arabesque, like pretty designs on it that's like a, maybe the motif is almost as big as the chair cushion.
Right.
Or you could center it on there.
Right.
Okay, you might take your template to the fabric store or to your sewing studio.
I would actually, yes, I would take a paper template with me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And here's the other thing. Your template is going to be, 18 by 18 or whatever your chair is, right?
Uh-huh.
You've got to have at least 4 inches, maybe more on each side, to pull and turn and staple.
You do not want to be short on this,
So
everybody.
you can't go, I've got 4 18 by 18 chairs. Oh, that's just like a yard of fabric.
So yeah, let's pretend you do have one of those big motifs that's almost as big as the chair, but like they're real close together on the fabric.
That's
so
right.
you lose the 2 adjacent ones.
That's right.
Okay? And I mean that's fine. It's just like don't buy too little fabric.
And it may also make you decide to buy something different. Mm-hmm, okay, you might go, there's so much waste here. I just really don't want that. Or here's the other thing. Not all the chairs have to look the same. I like this motif. I'm going to do my captain's chair in this and one more chair that goes to the other end of the table with this. And then I'm going to do the other 4 chairs in a solid or in a dot or in a stripe. And that's another thing. The design should go, right, from back to front.
Yeah. So
okay?
like you'd be
if there's a person's face.
Yes.
If you're going to be sitting on somebody's face.
Well, that toile, with the people swinging on the
so
trees,
you've got a
the
ballerina,
Fragonard thing.
Right.
Yeah,
whatever. So their head would be at the back of the chair seat, right?
Yeah.
And their feet would be at the front of the chair seat.
Unless you upholster.
Unless you're crazy.
No, unless you upholster your chairs with motifs of aerialists upside down in their hammocks, right? Then their feet would be. I just had to.
Well,
to
let's
throw
confuse
that
everyone. Okay?
Yes, no, it should be coming down that way. No, great point.
And stripes should go right. They should be running from the front to the back, not across the chair.
They shouldn't. I mean, I guess if someone just absolutely wanted to put them the other way,
it would be a very. I think you would not like the look.
It looks. Yeah, I think.
I don't think you would like the look. I really don't.
I feel like I have really strong opinions about some things,
like the
strut.
Like the design needs to follow your legs as they're on there, right?
Okay.
How you sit on the chair.
So if you're buying just that stripe fabric,
right?
Okay, then you can sort of calculate yardage a little differently.
It's a little easier. Now, how wide is the stripe?
Yeah.
Are all the stripes the same?
Yep. Blah, blah,
I
blah.
forget all the names of how stripe patterns go.
Yes,
but there's
there
like
are different
a bantu and a this and a that.
Yes.
But like it's a wide stripe and a skinny stripe and 2 medium stripes and a wide stripe or however that is.
Or if you get some kind of like plaid and you're going to do it on the bias or don't do that. Okay. So anyway.
Well, or a window pane or whatever, you guys know what you're looking at. You know what if you really take the whole freaking cushion, if you're not sure.
Take the whole chair.
Well, whatever. It's been done. I worked,
Oh, hey, is this why they make samples of home deck fabrics for people to look at?
Mm-hmm. People can also bring them home.
Oh,
lay them around
home
their
deck
house.
samples, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Home deck samples.
Yeah.
You might have hundreds of them in your home.
Some furniture store, some upholstery shop, a decorator may have given you the samples that needed to be retired because every year they will get a new set of samples. If they're a dealer, selling a certain furniture line, or if they're a home decorator, companies send them new samples.
So you may have received these,
Mm-hmm.
and then you may have had a friend who received them, and then she doesn't want them anymore, and so
Right.
she gave them all to you. And then other people knew at the shop that you used these in classes, so then they brought you more, and they brought you more, and you still have many, many, many of them. Okay? So this can be fun if you got the hookup. If you don't know what we're talking about, how big are they'll come in different sizes.
Right. They do come in different sizes.
They'll vary widely.
A lot of times they'll be maybe like 18 inches, 20 inches long. They'll get a length to them, but their width might only be like 10 inches.
I think it also depends on the scale of the print.
I was just going to say, now,
if it's the design.
If it's a scale, a print or whatever design, they might be larger because they need to get that whole the whole idea of the Well, sometimes what they do is because, of course, they do a print and they do it in 4 colors, but only one of the pieces
gets printed,
gets the
big
and
cut.
you'll find that in wallpaper too, where you have these little bitty swatches that show you the color, but there's one big swatch that's more sizable that gives you the whole idea of the print.
Okay, so we have a ton of these. So many.
We have them. I love them. We're crazy about them.
They're fun. We did give away a lot of them when we closed the shop, but we still have a ton.
And we still have it. We only have like 4 or 5 shelves of them.
Yeah. Is that all of them?
I think
there are no more hiding?
No, I think I have them all out. I have
you
some
think
of
that's
them
it?
hanging.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
We got some cool ones. So they weren't wide enough though on their own to
not for furniture.
To fit
we
your
use them for other things.
Well, I'm just saying they weren't. I'm just getting right into it. Spoiler alert: Mom used them to cover her dining room chairs.
Right.
They weren't wide enough to cover your dining room chairs. So what did you do?
So on each of my dining room chairs, there are 3 different fabrics. Okay. The middle fabric I considered my focus fabric.
Yes.
So most of those are a print, or a big floral, or I can't remember what they are.
I don't know. I'm thinking of one that's a floral, so I can't think of.
There's a couple that I like better than the other.
I promise.
Or I think I like them better, and then I change my mind. So, and then on the side, so that strip goes down the middle from back of the seat to front of the seat.
Yep.
And then on the sides, they still don't match. It's 3 different fabrics.
Right.
So on one side, there's maybe a gray tweedy looking one, and on the other side, it's also kind of a gray. But they sort of complement. But none of these are the same. Okay.
Okay. So none of the fabrics on this one cushion are the same, and then no cushions
and no
are
cushions
the same.
Every single cushion is different.
Yes.
Well, and this is not a surprise to my husband because I don't think we've had any cushions where all of the cushions were ever the same since we've been married.
Right.
I always at least had a different one on the captain's chair, or sometimes I made every other chair.
Yeah.
I never took I've never covered 6 chairs the same.
Right. Right. That wouldn't be fun. So just bringing this up,
right?
I kind of brought up the motif thing before because I thought, I'm going to forget about this because the way you did your dining room chairs,
right?
ZD pieced together fabric,
right? So I pieced these together first,
and it's in a big. A square, a rectangle,
made
whatever.
My big, whatever, 24 by
or
26 by 24 or whatever it was, rectangle.
Yeah,
square.
whatever 3 of those things ended up being.
Right. So whatever I needed to cover these cushions in the size I needed, I pieced them together side by side.
Yes.
And I had one in the middle that I knew was going to be centered. And this is what you do when you cover with anything. You have to decide, do you need to center a stripe? Do you need to center a motif? And you would do this, continually on those chairs, even if it's a small print. I mean, not if it's a micro print, but if it's, I'd say at least as big as maybe a silver dollar or a quarter, you still want to maybe go, okay, I'm going to center, my quarters going down the middle.
You don't think, this happened to me once when I made a dress. You were like, okay, next time when you have a print like this, they were fabric, not wreath isn't the word. They're like pennants, sort of drapes, flowers.
It was a flowery bow.
Yeah, yeah. And you were like, oh, if you just sent it out, I was like, oh, Yeah.
Right.
You know, just
Now,
so that it looks a
sometimes you
little
may
better.
specifically want it off center.
Sure, but
So, you can
know,
think about that too.
sure.
We're telling you the rules.
And then
and
you
if
go
you know
break
the
'em.
rules, you go break them.
Okay, and you could put, so ZD's got these stripes going, these stripes of fabric, which could
The
be made
pieces
of
of
the pieces
fabric,
of
right.
fabric, these strips of fabric that are together.
Going
and
from front to back.
They're going from, back to front.
Back to front.
Whatever.
Right, whatever, yeah.
But you could do these slanted. You know, you could get crazy. You could do a crazy quilt.
It was
you could,
really, I will tell
mean,
you, I had to piece these very cautiously.
Yeah, you had to think about it.
To get,
Yeah.
And how they were going to come out and how was I going to make 6 chairs? Or did I only do 4? There may only be 4 of those.
Okay.
I think there's only 4. There are only 4. I use those other 2 chairs in combo with it. Okay. But I also wanted them to look alike.
Yes.
Or not
coordinate.
Coordinate. So I made sure I had similar colors in them.
Right.
Right. So I assume we're going to take a picture and post this.
Lots of pictures, hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that you may want to do is you may want to embroider something on the seat.
Yeah.
Okay. Other people also do needlepoint seats.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's where I am with that, man. Nobody's sitting on that needlepoint.
Okay, I was thinking about hand embroidered kitchen towels.
I know.
Okay,
I know.
I would machine embroider a kitchen towel for someone with a funny thing or monogram or something, but I was using my kitchen towels today and I thought, hell no. I was like,
no, I know.
I think not.
No, I know. And I'm sort of that way like about needlepoint and things like. Now, a lot of people will take an antique chair and make a beautiful needlepoint seat, and
it's a
that's making a statement. So, their
d-
grandchildren aren't standing up and, jumping on top of sweet potatoes on it or
Right.
something like that. Or they'll cover it with a towel before they let it. But, that I get, but I do not get doing a whole set and putting all that time. Especially because so many fabrics are beautiful.
Yeah, no, nowadays, especially.
Yeah.
The way we used to decorate things had a lot to do with, society.
Right,
okay, and stuff. But, yeah, I was just thinking about that because I've been wanting to do a little more hand embroidery. I've been getting back into some knitting now that it's getting cooler. And I was like, I'm not going to ever
I'm not
do
even,
that.
I'm not a quilter. And I see some of these quilts people make, and I think, I hope they're hanging that on the wall because
that's
I know
beautiful.
how my grandchildren jump on my bed and the dog comes over and wipes his nose on my bed.
Right.
And it's like, oh my gosh, I hope they're not. I mean, I don't know.
If
it's your quilt. You do what you want.
If it makes you happy, you need a point.
You do what makes you happy, but it make me happy for it to be on the wall.
But you do think about your size here. Okay, embroidering on something, it can make the fabric sort of shift or shrink or just change.
Right.
You obviously pieced these things together into a big piece.
If you're going to embroider on something, you do a big piece first, and then you cut your shape out later.
And then you cut things down. Okay, so always keep that in mind if doing any embellishment. But then, hey, let's get to the good part.
So now we're going to cover these babies, right? Okay. So you are going to put your fabric down on a clean surface, face down, right side down.
Right side to the table.
And then you're going to put your cushion on top of it. Right? And you are going to take it from make sure it's in the position you want it, if the motif's coming out exactly where you want it, all that kind of stuff. If you need to measure down, 1 inch from the top and make sure the motif's there or whatever, do that.
Yeah.
You can mark on the back of your fabric generally if you need to make like a little square that you're going to sit that in with it. So what I do is I have it, the fabric, right side down. I place my cushion on top of it, and then I take from the center of either it'll be the back or the front, and I will pull it over and down the side, right? And I will staple it.
Okay.
And then I go all the way over to the other side.
Exactly
Exact opposite side. And I take that fabric and I bring it over and I staple it, and that's right sort of in the center.
So you do 12 o'clock and 6.
And then
you do 3 and 9. Okay.
And then you go, next to 12 and next to 12 and then next to 6. And you are pulling these. You're giving it a certain amount of tension.
Right.
Okay. Now, what you have to be careful of is don't get too close to those corners too fast.
Okay.
You have to address those corners. Correct? So, however you folded those corners, whether you pull, the fabric over the corner or you pull it up and you're going to fold
Make
it.
a fold or,
Yeah, there's like you make a military bed is what
like
I call
a hospital
it.
corner.
Hospital corner. You can do that. Don't get stapled so much that you can't deal with the corners.
So you really, so you've done this. I just want to clarify, because for me, because I don't think I've done this exact thing before. So you've done like your compass points, your north, south, east, west, and you wouldn't immediately go to north, northeast. Or,
no.
Okay.
No, I would go then right next to north, south, east, west, and I'd get a couple inches.
And really slowly move toward those.
And get a couple inches on both sides.
Okay.
And you want it taut. And there's reasons to have it taut. It will wear better taut.
Yeah.
If it's loose and bunches up, it doesn't look good and it doesn't wear right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave room for my corners though, and then I will I can go to my corner and I will pull opposite corners. So I will do, the northeast corner, right?
Yeah.
Give it a staple or two, and then I will go to the southwest corner and give it a staple or two. And then I will go back and sort of finish, finishing these, going back and forth, making sure I keep a nice tension.
Yeah.
And that's how you get that pretty finished look. Now, you may be trimming some fabric at those corners.
Yeah,
so you have to have your scissors right there.
Okay.
And this is something I use scissors for and not a rotary cutter.
Oh, wow.
So,
Here we go.
So that's an odd thing for me. But, you may, once you pull that over that corner, you may be able to trim some of that fabric away.
Okay. And then I just want to say, let's pretend you are just centering kind of one of those large motifs on your seat.
Right.
If you figure out the top of my cushion or the bottom of my cushion, bottom of my seat is, where the pattern starts to scroll up or something, marking that on your subsequent pieces or whatever. You
or
don't
just noting it in your head. Yeah.
You've thought about centering it, but then have you thought about like where it goes,
keeping
it laterally?
Even. You want to and this, going back and forth, north, south, east, west.
Yeah. It can help keep it.
That's what keeps it right, because you're pulling the fabric.
But you don't want to have this motif centered, but then be including one part of it on one chair and a different part of it on another chair. That would end up being like,
if you pull that fabric over, and you can also usually tell, you want to, you want to keep it even.
Yeah.
You're trying to keep it. But, if you've cut it in the square or whatever, now that you've pulled over about 2 inches. And so you'll continue to pull that 2 inches.
And you could keep your first cushion nearby as you do your subsequent ones and be like, oh, good.
No, you absolutely should.
That motif.
Unless you do them all differently.
Well, that's one reason to do them all different.
That is right.
That's one reason to
don't ever do symmetry, then nobody can say you've done it wrong.
That's one reason to do that.
Right.
So you could keep that first cushion nearby to say, okay, the scrolly part is lining up as it did with the first one. But then don't set number 2 there for your next template. Put number 2 away.
Right.
Okay. And
always go by number 1.
Always go by number 1, right? Okay.
The other thing that you might want to do, and I do this, is you might want to write the date you recovered them and take a Sharpie or something like that and some sort of indelible ink and just mark it. You can cover that part.
Yeah.
Or you can leave it out, whatever. And you may want to put the date and your initials. And I do that. And I'll tell you why. Because one reason I do it is I've done it before and I thought, boy, that didn't last.
Yeah.
And then I look at the date and I'm like,
20 years ago.
Well, that was 17 years. That's been a pretty good.
Is that Hollywood chair done in the 90s or 2001?
Well, you can look because the Hollywood chair is actually on its, what do you call that? The base or whatever. It's actually embroidered.
Yeah, I know. Right. I can't remember. It's in my room, and I can't remember what year it is. We'll talk about it during the Hollywood chair episode. So it's a long time ago.
It's over 15 years, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now you've got your new covers stapled on.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't so if when you put this on the chair, those edges aren't covered, or you see something that looks unfinished, or you don't like it, or you can choose to glue a ribbon on, or some trim, or another piece of fabric, something like that. You can do that. You can actually cut a piece of fabric that will be like the shape of the seat, slap it on there, the shape of the frame, slap it on there, and then you would only see that from the bottom.
Okay.
I used to do that a lot. I feel like I don't worry about it so much anymore. Nobody ever looks at it.
My instinct would be to not worry about the underside of the chair, but that's me. So that would be my instinct. But once you got it finished, once you got the cushion, you put it on your chair,
right?
And then you leave it there for a little bit, and you let people sit on it, and it slides out from under them.
That's happened.
What? Oh, is that
don't sit there. Oh, wait, don't sit there. I lost the screw.
It's not screwed to the chair.
What happens is you lost the screws.
So put the screws in a plastic bag.
The screws are in a little plastic bag, but you don't know where you put it. And you put it somewhere where you knew no one else would find it, and therefore you didn't either.
So you want to put the screws in a little plastic bag, and then you want to like painters tape them to the chair leg, okay, is what you should do.
That's probably the safest thing to do. But I was also painting these chairs.
So one reason a delay can happen like that is if you are sort of like refinishing an entire
So I had taken the cushions off, and I was totally refinishing all the wood.
Yes.
And then finally putting the cushions on. But I will tell you where they were, just so you know. They were in the candy dish in the hutch. So, in the bag. It only took me like 3 weeks to find them. I would lay in bed and go, like, where would I have, logically put those? Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, in the hutch that coordinated with the whole thing. Okay. So
I kept them all together.
Then you just get to screw your cushions back on, right?
That's right. And
boom.
You're like really pleased. And somebody will pull your chair out someday and go, oh, wow, this is really unique.
Then you have a dinner party.
And then they pull out the other chair and they go, oh, this is unique too. They're all different.
Okay, so then next step is to have a dinner party. And ta-da, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's that.
And I said, this is one of the, and you don't have to do 4 chairs. Do 1.
Yeah, this is a good... this is something where you could thrift one chair.
You could thrift 1 chair.
With 1 cushion.
You could find some fabric you really think is, cool. And you could refinish the chair or paint the chair, one of the colors in the fabric. I mean, you could just do, some really crazy stuff. Make it so... If you want just a good, fun project, this would be
this would be a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can let us know if you have any questions about this. When we're going to dive deep into some other projects in the following podcasts in this series. You can get a hold of us. You can email me at mallory@sohere.com, and we're on Instagram @sohere.com. ZD, take it away.
So long and so happy.
Thanks for listening to Sewing Out Loud. For even more expert sewing advice, visit sewhere.com.